Subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support.
Livestream highlights from when Damien showcased the defense mission was sent on all screens, from the time that the explosions were about to be set off, to the moment that Damien had decided to take on the full blast of the explosion like a man, were all highlights of the Aldean fortress siege, as the explosion took over and destroyed everything in its path. The stream was destroyed as well as numerous users started to complain about the livestream being cut off all of a sudden. The scene then changes to someone else who was viewing the livestream from his phone. He wonders how Damien would have survived in that moment. He talked about how if he was a viewer then he wouldn't have believed it, if this video didn't exist on his monitor. The man was further surprised that Damien was able to upload this kind of video. With that speed, gaining tens of millions of views is nothing. He chuckled to himself and thought about how he had never seen a streamer with this kind of influence before, making him wonder how far Damien can climb. The scene then changes back into the world of AC, where a player is seen kneeling before Arthur while shouting "damn it." He held a painful expression on his face as he asks Arthur about how it was possible for him to kill all of his guild members alone. But Arthur simply smiled and laughed as he held onto a spellbook that was flipping through its pages on his hand. The player couldn't believe that he had defeated everyone from the Rising Dragon Assembly to the Azure Dragons, which wouldn't be possible without hacks. He slowly stands up and tells Arthur that the Azure Dragons that he belonged to will never surrender to a hacker like him. The man beside Arthur couldn't believe what the player said about Arthur and wanted to kill him, but Arthur tells him no, he will be the one to finish this as his staff started to glow a red light which alerts the player as he took a defensive stance. As he raised the staff into the air, red lightning started to appear all around Arthur. The red lightning soon shocks the player who could do nothing against it at all. Arthur smiles and commented that it was nothing much. The man who stood beside him soon informs him that Secretary Kim Woo-sung was urgently contacting him. Hearing that made Arthur end his game as he soon returns to his real-life body. Secretary Woo-sung appeared beside him as he awakens from the game, handing a tablet over to Arthur as he apologizes for interrupting him as he had something to report to him in regards to the AC community that he had mentioned before. Arthur takes the table and wonders what it was about. The tablet 2 clips that challenged Arthur to Damien. The users online were commenting over which one of them would win if they fought one another. Secretary Woo-sung informs Arthur that Damien was the rookie and streamer receiving the most attention these days, and that Wiz Entertainment Korea has been supporting him with unusual marketing. Seeing and hearing all this information about Damien made Arthur comment that he was much more interesting than he expected, which made he felt that they would meet someday. The scene then changes to Damien, who was working out. He stops his workout halfway through to scratch his ear as he felt that someone from somewhere was talking about him. He soon wipes his sweat and started to look at his handphone. He was receiving chat notifications from his teammates at Aldean Fortress who were praising him and thanking him for being in the same team as them. Seeing all the notifications on his phone made Damien think that there must be a lot of OTube revenue now. Min Jun then pops up behind him wondering what he was looking at. Damien immediately hides his phone and tells him that it was just AC news, of course. As he continued to work out, Damien questions him on whether he had raised his level by a lot since he had just moved on to Jushin, but Min Jun wasn't sure as he had gotten himself trapped somewhere weird. And now he was just hearing about Tri-Flower Spirit Gathering or Quintic Anatomical Chi. But seeing Damien working out made him comment that he was a monster for lifting that much weight at once. Damien then thought deeply about what phrases he was talking about as they didn't sound unfamiliar to him. He was certain that Min Jun was currently at least a hero rank, or even a legend rank. Min Jun continued to explain his situation about how he was currently being trained as if they wanted him to beat someone to death. But Damien tells him not to be sad that he was slower than others, and that it will come back to him in a good direction, which made him question Min Jun on whether he was recording things as well. Min Jun tells him yes, but that he sucked at editing, which Damien answers with a calling card. He tells him to take the card and contact them by giving Damien's name so that they would edit the recordings for him. Min Jun then thanks him for the card, which Damien simply wanted food sometime in exchange for. Hearing that Damien simply wanted food annoyed Min Jun as he knew that Damien ate like an elephant, but Damien reminded Min Jun that he ate the same as him. Just as the two bros were discussing, a wild booty appears. Damien immediately took notice of that booty as he turned to see it. He continued to stare at the female gym member with a dazed look on his face. The female member could sense our boy's Riz level stare as she started to sweat profusely, which Damien started to notice. The female gym member then turns her head to see who it was that was staring at her, but upon seeing her face, Damien pointed a finger at her as he recognizes who she was. The sudden reaction from Damien was strong enough to stun the girl, which made her fall onto the treadmill face first. As she held her head in pain, Damien commented that it was her as his AC avatar was shown in the background. Her face was soon filled with a familiar look as she recognizes who Damien is. Damien had figured out that she was the female ninja that was harassing him inside AC and the very same player whom he had stolen all his equipment from. She finally stood up to question Damien if he was the asshole that she saw in AC and wondered what he was doing here. She accuses Damien of finding out what gym she went to and following her all the way here, which she then labeled him as a stalker. Being labeled as a stalker irritated Damien. He then reminds her that he understood that she was a narcissist, but there was no way he was interested enough in her to actually chase her around in reality. He informs her that he had come here to exercise and that he was with someone he knew over here too. Min Jun laughs awkwardly and agrees with what Damien said. He then tells her that if she has an issue with something that happened in AC, then they should resolve it in AC so that they wouldn't waste time in reality. The female ninja agrees with what Damien said as she turns back to the treadmill to get her phone, telling him that what happens in the game stays in the game. But Damien still wondered if she had any other business with him. She then handed her phone over to Damien with the contact info page opened. Her face started to blush as she tells Damien to hand over his phone number so that they could meet in AC. But our boy was stunned by this sudden request as his face was filled with confusion. The scene then changes to show that Damien was wandering along the streets after leaving the gym and female ninja behind, but his face was shown with an annoyed expression as he commented out loud that he was seeing all kinds of things today. A flashback is seen from when the female ninja was shouting at Damien to stop and that she had followed him to the supermarket, chasing him all day long as he was purposely ignoring her. She even screamed out loud that he would pay for this as Damien thought about how she was threatening him to just give her his number. As he opened the door to his building, Damien couldn't help but wonder that the female ninja was weird. He walks inside the building and noted that he didn't want the people he fights with on AC to get involved with him in real life. But another lady appears in front of him as he reached his floor. Looking closely to the lady that came out made Damien realize something. It was Hyun, whom he had teamed up with at Aldean Fortress. She looks up and recognizes Damien as well. Seeing her made him question her about how she looked so much like her game character. Damien also wondered if this neighborhood was the hangout spot of AC users. Hyun was startled by the sudden interaction but wondered why Damien was here. Her mind immediately went to stalking, which shocks her enough that she drops the things that she was carrying. As the plastic bottle rolled out from her bag on the floor, Damien questions why everyone thinks that he had so much time to stalk someone. He helps her to pick up the plastic bottle, using it to point to a door, and informed her that this was his house. Hyun couldn't believe that he was right next door, which made her flustered as Damien helped pick her stuff up. He also couldn't have known that she was his neighbor as well, but as he packed her stuff, he tells her to not come up with some weird conclusions. Damien then went on to enter his house while noting that he couldn't believe that she would live in a place like this. He then tells her that even if they didn't greet each other when they see each other, they shouldn't dislike one another. As soon as he entered his house, Hyun looked at her bag and started to blush heavily once again, saying that Damien wasn't that bad of a guy. Damien finally lets down his stuff as he couldn't believe the day that he had. He went on to remove his shirt as he figures that he could finally rest, but a red notification window appears to tell him that he still had 11 hours 49 minutes and 57 seconds left. The notification then warns him that if he does not enter the game, he will die, so he needed to be careful. Seeing the red window annoys Damien as he couldn't get his rest at all. He storms into the room that held his gaming capsule while shouting that out loud if they wanted him to die while playing the game. He immediately sits inside the gaming capsule and activates it, telling the game that he was coming in. We return back to AC where Damien was lying on a huge bed. A notification window appears to welcome him to Arcia. More windows appear to inform him that he had cleared the defense of Aldean Fortress and Mysterious Rage quest. He had also obtained the title of Survivor of the Battlefield and Narrow Escapee. Damien stretched his body and noted that it was a good idea to have gotten a room. He received another notification informing that there was a message for him. It turns out to be from Maria, who was threatening him if he doesn't come to her right now, then she was going to do something to him. Damien reads a paper and recalled that Maria had told him to come see her immediately, but he recalled that he was so tattered after the defense of the Aldean Fortress, and that this was much better than just crawling to her. Damien then figured that since he had refilled his health at the lodgings, then he should check his system window now. Seeing his current stats and abilities made Damien glad that he had worked hard to complete these quests, but comparing his stats and abilities to his equipment, he noted that it was extremely bad. But aside from his equipment being bad, he noted that his level was a bigger problem. He recalled that normally at this point, users would change jobs or get promoted, but a notification informs Damien that due to an unforeseeable wall blocking him, he cannot develop any further, so he needed to find the related quest and complete it to reach higher stages. Seeing this particular window made Damien pissed off due to the vague and stupid phrasing that kept happening. He shuddered to think that the system would only allow him to change jobs once he completes the 7 deadly sins tree, but figured that it wasn't like that. Another window soon appears to inform Damien that he had an unchecked item, so he needed to check his inventory and confirm the item. But a window suddenly opens up by itself. Damien stares at it and wondered why it appeared when he did nothing. Just as a bright light started to appear, it was revealed to belong to the destruction orb fragment piece. This was a fragment of an item with the power of the original 7 evils, the 7 deadly sins. Created with quite tough materials, it comes with the feature of simulating the instincts of monsters due to its feature of endlessly absorbing mana. The item's durability is quite low compared to its toughness, and because an unknown energy has not settled properly, it could easily endanger the user. Damien held onto the broken fragment in his hand and recalled that he had gotten it from the shattered destruction orb back then, which made him wonder why it had popped out, but feeling the energy coming from it made him realize that he had felt it before. He figured out that the mastermind was the Crucifix Dawn as expected, since it has the same nature as that guy. Notifications began to appear once again to inform Damien that the Apocalypse Invocation, the Book of the Black Covenant, is emitting a strange light and that the Oracle is being activated. The system then asks him if he would like to activate the Oracle. Damien stares at the book in shock and wondered what it was as the book itself appeared to be lighted up. Even Bundle was alarmed by what was going on as he questions Damien about why it was coming out. Damien remains stunned as he tells Bundle that he himself didn't know either. Damien thought about how, seeing that they were both having the same reaction at the same time, it must be that there was a reason. He then decides to check what it was first as he stretched his hand towards the book. The book then began to emit a strong, powerful light that causes Damien to flinch in pain for a bit as he held onto it. Damien soon vanished as the book closed itself and dropped onto his bed. Bundle was alarmed and wondered where Damien went. The scene then changes to show that Damien had been teleported to a different place as he fell from the light in the sky that was the same as the book. Damien kneeled onto the ground with a painful expression while exclaiming that he thought that he was going to die from motion sickness. He then looks around and wondered where he was, but something about this place was familiar to him at the same time. More notification appeared to inform Damien that the Oracle had been activated and that he had been warped, but his current location remained hidden, while another notification tells him that he couldn't go back until he completes the Oracle. Seeing the word Oracle made Damien question what it was. He slowly began to stand up, but could only hear chirping noises that made him think of Bundle, but as he ventured deeper into the jungle, he realized that it was different from the sound Bundle makes. But just in case, Damien was going to be prepared to find it. He peeks out from the bushes to see that there was a campfire as he thought about how the sounds from earlier sounded like human voices. But Shaka appears right in front of Damien, shouting out "Friend!" at him. The sudden appearance of Shaka shocked Damien as he fell backwards. Shaka looks at Damien and questions him on why he haven't come all this time. But Damien was still alarmed to see Shaka in front of him, as Shaka was the god of the apocalypse. Shaka then grabs onto the back of Damien and tells him that he thought that he was going to die from boredom. Seeing Shaka here made Damien realize that this was probably Shaka's space too, which made him come to a sudden realization. He recalled the past memory of when Kiran had whacked him with the stick to send him to Shaka, which annoyed Damien as he questions why that old man had to knock him unconscious.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.